disruption that we and our competitors in this whole market is creating. I see people going places they've never been. But then I was at this talk last week that I gave 40 CEOs, and there were only 2 women. And the men in the room, myself included, were like darn frustrated about that. And so the question is, what from a public policy perspective can we do? And then I'd invite you, to do much more personal kind of your view on mentorship and your view on, your advice to how people can make everything in these moments.
Well, it is a great time to be involved in these exciting ventures as a woman. There's no doubt in my mind, both in the public and the private sphere. But unfortunately, there are still some of the old overhangs that we haven't yet moved beyond. And let me just break it down into sort of digestible chunks, I guess. First, it still is very difficult for women to be seen as a peer. And it's not because men and in any area of endeavor are thinking, I'm going to be resistant, and I'm not going to, help this person, I'm going to discriminate. No, it's just very deep. It's deeply rooted. And so for a lot of women, the messages that you get coming up in the professional world are absolutely contradictory. Stand up for yourself, or as my friend Sheryl Sandberg famously says, lean in. But don't lean in too much, because you don't want to be too aggressive, you don't want to be too pushy, you don't want to be, heaven forbid, bossy. So where do you draw the line? I mean, you're leaning in, because people say lean in, but you lean in too much and other people are going back off. So it still is a difficult calculation that women are making literally second by second in the professional sphere. And I think we all have to do a better job, men and women, mentoring young people. Because, to be honest, it is hard for young men too. There's a lot of competitive pressures, there's a lot of mixed messages. The job market is maybe not as deep and broad as it once was. So we need to help particularly young men and women understand how to find their own style, how to be comfortable in their own skins. I mean, you can be 6'5" or 4'5" and still be a tremendous worker, but you have to be able to convey that, and you have to feel comfortable about it. Now, as a woman, people ask me all the time, particularly young women, so what do you do? And I said, well, first of all, you do have to grow skin like a rhinoceros. You have to be ready to just accept the fact that you're going to have some uncomfortable and maybe difficult moments from time to time. You cannot take criticism personally, but you should take it seriously. You can learn from your critics. They may actually tell you things that your family and friends never would. So you've got to be constantly taking in information, evaluating it. You have to run your own little cloud in your head to get all your data organized. And then I think you have to be aware of how you're perceived. I've practiced law, I've done I've been on corporate boards, I've done a lot of different things in my life, and then obviously, First Lady, Senator, Secretary of State. And it is a learning process, and that's why we need more supportive environments to help people, particularly younger people, and especially young women, kind of find their way through all of that. I was fascinated by something I read about Google the other day. Google actually was looking at its data, like why, when it comes time to ask for promotions or ask for raises, do so many more of our male employees ask than our female employees? And they realized it depended upon how it was presented. If it was presented like, okay, it's time to step forward and tell us why you think you're worth more, women were very reluctant to do that. If it were presented more in the line of, we're coming to that time in the year when we want to hear what people's ideas are, what you think your contributions are, more women were willing to do that. So I think we're learning about how we get the most out of everybody's talent. We cannot possibly leave anybody behind. We can't continue to pay women less for the same jobs than men are paid. We can't allow women to be marginalized. That hurts the enterprise. The final thing I would say, because you mentioned about corporations, yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, we're behind a lot of the European countries when it comes to political participation at the highest levels, when it comes to corporate boards and CEO positions. And you have to ask yourself, why is that? And some of it is pre-existing attitudes, and some of it is internal, where, as I was saying, women don't necessarily go and ask for it. But some of it is there really are more hurdles for women to get through. So companies need to take a look and say, how do we get the best talent? And there are some studies which show that women on corporate boards actually enhance a company's productivity, and that's something to be looked at. So we need to analyze the data. This is a data-driven group. We need to analyze the data, and then we need to share the lessons that we derive from it.
Got it.